You like it or don't like it, pal? Learn to love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
All right, listen up.
Now it's our time to step forward. It's time to bring the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin, Frazier, DKM, and JCap.
That was good.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, after much technical support, phone calls to India and all across the world, we finally got the Alliance Guys podcast up and running. With me tonight is the former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Kevin Frazier, and my man, the hottest free agent in professional wrestling. You've seen him in New Japan Strong. You've seen him in All Elite Wrestling. He's been some of that Day One Championship Wrestling from Hollywood stuff, and well, he's Mr. Primetime Live himself. I'm talking about Danny Limelight. Danny, welcome to the show, man. What is going on?
Mi gente, thank you for having me. Jay, Kevin, it's a pleasure to be back on the Alliance Guys podcast. You said it yourself. You made me sound like a superstar with that introduction, but I got to say it's been a hell of a ride. Quarantine's been rocking and rolling, and I have no signs of letting up on that gas at all.
And I mean, look, man.
Man, I love it.
We talked like, what, not even 6 months ago. That's way too long. We talked like 3 months ago. And we were talking about, like, what's next for Danny Limelight. A lot of people were saying, nah, he's done. He's finished. But that was never the case. You were just coming back strong, looking good, feeling good. The Bodega dominating the tag team division in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Primetime Live.
Papo Esco, the King Fat Boy. Shout out to the King Fat Boy, Papo Esco.
Papo Esco.
You gotta give him a shout out for me, man. I love Pablo Esco, man.
Papo.
Hey, shout out to Kevin Frazier, Papo Esco's #1 fan now, apparently.
That's right. Tell him, man. When I wrestled, I used to travel with as many big dudes as I could, because you know how it is. They're little guys. And so people would come up to me and they were like, Kevin, I think you have a type. And I was like, yeah, hey, I get along with big dudes, man. What do you want me to say? And like I told Jay,
I know that I can always come and make that tag to Papo, and he's gonna come in and since he's starving, he's gonna run through everybody, beat him down, and I can just come in and look pretty for the finish, So
I have to jump in here, okay? Because when I saw that you and Pablo were going to be a team, I hadn't really seen Pablo. I'd seen a little bit of you, and I already was a fan just because I like cruiser, junior heavyweight, however you want to call it, wrestling,
right?
Especially when done the right way. And already your first match with Kevin Martinson was great.
Thank you so
much.
And
so when I saw, one of the things is a sign of a good promo is when you don't say tonight. If you don't say tonight, you're doing something right. I just rhymed there, just so y'all know.
If it rhymes,
no, but
it makes dollars,
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but no, you guys had such a great promo right off the bat, and I was like, oh, and it's a big dude in Danny Limelight. And like I told Jay, with me, like, of course I love junior heavyweight wrestling. Of course, that's what I did. That's what got me into wrestling. But my other favorite kind of wrestling is when you have two big dudes that just walk around and yell at each other, and then just
beat each other
hammer
down,
and beat the crap out of each other. Because in reality, like, that's what's going to happen when you get in the ring with one of those guys. They're going to beat the crap out of you.
Right.
So when I got to see that you two were going to be a team, not only that, but the promo you guys cut, I was like immediately fired up about it. I'm pretty pumped up about that. I don't know what Jay's the guy who runs the show. I can't wait to talk about the Bodega and the possibilities of you and Pablo Esco as a team in the future.
Thank you, man.
I mean, it was pretty crazy because, last week I just happened to tweet at you, man, because we were talking about that tag team. We were talking about you and King Fat Boy. Can I say that? Because I always feel like, as a fat guy, I feel like I'm okay to say stuff like that, but at the same time, like, that's a big dude, and I don't really want to piss him off. You know what I mean?
Nah, you don't want to piss Papo Esco off, but that's his name, the King Fat Boy. As long as you're calling him the King Fat Boy before the Fat Boy, you good,
And I love the moniker, the one man lucha gang, because that's good, man. That's good. But yeah, we were just I tweeted during the show because we were talking about you guys and how good you looked against the Real Money Brothers, and that's a tag team that's certainly they're well known in the area, for the West Coast, I should say, like Oregon, Las Vegas, Arizona, and they've been making their way on Primetime Live. But to see you guys in the ring, I mean, I don't want to put anybody down, but you guys looked great against them. And it's funny to me because your tag team with Pablo Esco, you guys haven't been teaming all that long. I mean, just what, like in September?
Yeah, I want to say September is when we started teaming as a team. I had never met him before then, but I'm sure we're going to talk about this man a lot during this interview. But Marquez, he sees something, he envisions something, and usually I trust his vision always, and usually it works out great. And so we started rocking and rolling. I've always been a fan of, the big guy, little guy since Michaels and Diesel, and I've always been a fan of just, really bringing that Puerto Rican culture to TV. There's not many of us doing it, and so being able to team with Papo, who's somebody that I had never met before but heard of and seen online and stuff like that, I thought we were going to have, a good chemistry. I thought we were going to be able to do some cool things. I did not expect it to rock like this, like it's been like it's been going. But I'm glad it is. He's somebody who deserves to be on TV, and he can talk, he can wrestle. Like, I'm a big fan of wrestlers that know how to cut a promo, and he can do that as well. And we just vibe off each other, man. It's been great so far. And we only have one thing on our mind. I want championship gold. I've been a part of United Wrestling Network for so long. I think it's time that we start with United Wrestling Network Tag Team Championships. And me and Papa Esco got that on our sites, man. And for everybody that's watching, who don't want to see it happen, too bad, because
Hey, let me come on record, because again, kind of like we chatted a little bit off air because of some of the technical stuff, which was a good thing. But I'll say stuff that Danny you can't say. You don't even have to react to these things because even that probably could have repercussions in the business, but I don't care. When something's not good, I can say it, and I'll go home. I'll go to bed and sleep well at night.
Right.
The tag team division, the tag team champions, to me, just from my perspective, maybe they, disrespect to them as people, but they're just not that good, and that's just my opinion. So as far as who I want to see the belts on, look, you guys got to earn it. You're a new team. You got to work your way. I understand that, but you did have a pretty big victory the last time you teamed. So again, honestly, like it's your division as far as I'm concerned to take, because the current champions are a way notch below, and Jay knows I'm not a big fan at all. Haven't had anything good to say about them as a team, and that doesn't mean that I think they don't belong in the business or anything like that. If they want to get offended, fine. You know what? Put on your big boy pants, take your thumb out of your mouth, and grow up. If you're not as good as Danny Limelight and Pablo Esco, that's just the way of the world, baby. But I believe in the near future, you guys should be wearing some gold, man, because all you need is the opportunity, because it's there. I love this team. And I told Jay and I told DK the minute I saw you guys cut a promo, I was like, this is my team right here. This is my team. They didn't even say tonight one time in the promo.
I will say, I do feel like it's our time in the tag team division. Adrian Quest and Andy Brown are phenomenal wrestlers, in my opinion. I think that they're great. I
threw up a little bit. Sorry.
I do feel like, Adrian Quest is one of my best rivals. Somebody that I love wrestling and stuff like that. Maybe the tag team championships, maybe it's not rocking for some people right now, but I would say that when we get our shot, and all we need is one shot, we're taking those belts home with us, and we're gonna bring back life into the tag team division. The rest of the best tag teams, you know what I'm saying? I want them to bring, everybody who's done something. And then after we're rocking and rolling with those championships, I want to go after the NWA Tag Team Championship. Let's do that. Let's let Bodega run through everybody.
Fire.
Man.
And that's really why I wanted Danny Limelight on here, because I know he ain't afraid to open up his mouth either, Kev. He ain't afraid to say what's on his mind. And he's going to speak his truth.
I'll say this.
You can't censor this man.
Sanders. and about myself as a wrestler, and I see a lot of the same type of qualities in you, Danny. And I would just say, keep talking, man. It's the business of talking. So talk your game, because you can back it up, bro.
Listen, I respect that 100%. I stay authentic to who I am. Jay's known me for years since I started. I used to talk a lot of shit back then, a little weird back then. But what I will say was that my in-ring abilities didn't match my mouth at the time. Now I feel like I've came into my own. I'm rocking and rolling, and arrogance gets mistaken a lot when somebody's very confident, and when somebody's good. You know, people just look for it to be considered arrogance because they don't want to like that person, or they don't want to see that person doing good. Everybody wants to see you do good, never better than dumb. But the way I look at things, and this is a conversation I had with TJP and a few other people, like, everybody can eat off anybody's plate. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to take nothing from you to eat. You don't need to take nothing from me to eat. If I'm rocking, I'm riding the wave, and I'm putting on for SoCal wrestlers, and I'm putting on for Championship Wrestling Hollywood, and for all these other companies that are investing in Danny Limelight, let me run my mouth, let me do my thing, and let me shine. Because you know what? You may not want to see it, but it's what's best for business right now. J. Cal said it. Everybody say I'm the hottest free agent. I don't care what nobody says. Somebody needs to sign me, and it better be right.
Count the mic drops. Mic drop 2 right there.
Hey, Kev, I remember talking to you about 10 years ago, and you went off, and you called it pent-up promo aggression. And I feel that's what we're getting right now from Danny Limelight, some pent-up promo aggression. Tell us what else you want to talk about, Danny. Let's take it, man. Look, you've been all over the place in the last few months. It's like it's just crazy how much you've blown up. Because, I mean, we were talking a few months ago. We were talking about you. Hey, this new show with New Japan of America. It's available on New Japan World. That's where Danny Limelight's going to be. You're still Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. They didn't even announce the pay-per-view yet when you came on here. So we didn't know anything about Primetime Live officially. Right. But now, I mean, Game Changer Wrestling's come knocking. Hurricane Pro Wrestling. Is Hurricane Pro?
Hurricane
out in Texas. I mean, you're really kind of getting these phone calls. And then, of course, I mean, a couple trips to Jacksonville, Florida never hurt anybody. So it's like, what is going through your mind right now? You just said it, like, sign this free agent. But, I mean, let's take this from 1 year ago today to now. I mean, it's been quite a road for you, hasn't it?
Let's go back. 1 year ago today. Let's see. 1 year ago today, I was finally, I just had my New Japan tryout. A few months before that, I was wrestling on Impact for the X Division Championship. My fiance had left me. I was homeless for a week, living in a car, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I finally found an apartment, had my New Japan tryout. Then I split my head in November of 2019. Then I separate my shoulder in December of 2019. I'm supposed to now wrestle for months. I come back 1 month later. When we talked last, I think New Japan had just started. And we didn't know about Primetime Live. We didn't know about AEW. None of that stuff, man. The Lions Break Crown tournament hadn't happened yet. And just, I looked at it as an opportunity to show the world that I belong. This was the worst year in history to some people, and I took it and made it my year. And that's all I wanted to do, was to not use it as an excuse as to why I wasn't succeeding. I see some of my best friends get signed. You know, Sammy Guevara got signed right after we wrestled. Jungle Boy Luchasaurus got signed. Chris Bay got signed. All these dudes that I wrestled with and I had love for got signed, and I didn't. And instead of being a hater and looking at it like, damn, why am I not signed? How come this guy? I was like, nah, what do I got to do to get signed? How much work do I got to put in? What kind of grind do I got to make? How hard do I got to persistently work consistently to make sure that I get to where I want to be? And then now that everything's happening, every time I hear my music hit and every time I get into the ring, I need to remind myself, this might be the last chance you're wrestling. Today might be the day somebody's watching you wrestle. Today might be the day that some of the guys that wear the brass and the big companies might be looking at you. And you got to make sure that you consistently perform at the level that you've been performing at every time so that you can get to where you want to be. And until I get there, I'm not stopping. I'm not satisfied. I'm hungry. When I say I'm hungry, if Papo says he's starving, we mean that shit. I'm hungry. I want to be a household name. I want to live an abundant life. And I want to prove everybody wrong, including Jeff fucking Dino. It's the first name in a long, long time. Everybody wrong that they messed up when they passed on Danny Limelight. And if they don't like it, too bad. You can't stop me.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's number 3.
I love it.
Number 3.
Splash.
Yeah.
Kobe.
Yeah. So I like a lot of the stuff that you're saying. And I think, one of the things that I like about watching you initially, that I will encourage you, as I've watched you continue, that I'd encourage you to keep going in these directions, are promos. Like your promo, like you could talk and continue to talk and talk and talk. Don't stop doing that, because the more you do it, the better at it you're going to get. I think intentional effort, meaning like mindful, the more you can learn to think as you're doing these things, the more the things that you say will even tell a better story. The more that natural charisma that you have will start to formulate something that makes you very unique compared to everybody else. So I would encourage you to keep thinking, keep pushing yourself a little bit further as far as your promos go. You know, what you're doing with Pablo Esco, being open to doing things like this that stretch you as a character, show that you have a dynamic. Because again, you know, I've seen things from you that I could watch you do on an AEW. I've seen you do things that I could watch you do on a WWE or an NXT. But I've also watched you have matches that would translate to a New Japan wrestling. And these are not the same kind of wrestling brands at all. And so I would keep doing that, because it makes it where the right opportunity is going to come along, the right spot's going to present, you know, it's going to happen. And you're going to be ready to be able to be what you need to be in that moment for those right people. And I would just encourage you to keep doing that. The one thing I don't think you could ever have too much of in wrestling, no matter how big you are, no matter how big you're not, is having character, personality. Remember, it's a story. Being able to tell a story, being able to captivate people with who you are and the story you're telling, no matter what. Whether if it's a New Japan match, telling that story, whether it's the bodega and telling that story, or whether it's you going out there and having a 5-star, you know, more American-style match. As long as you know how to, like, grab people, and then not only grab them, because you could do that. You've already grabbed a lot of us. But not only that, but keep us as you start to peel back the layers. We start to get to know more about who you are. And you think about like a superhero like Spider-Man, and it's like, you know, that adversity that you faced in your life is very similar to like what he did. You know, his life was never perfect. And the more open the more you can show that to people, and people can walk that walk with you, man, that's what's gonna. Who cares? We talked about your size off the air. Who cares about that? The best storytellers are the ones that last the longest. And so far, I see a lot of that in you already.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And that's something that I try to do every time I'm in the ring is know where I'm at and try to wrestle that kind of style, and just being able to be like that hybrid type of wrestler that can wrestle with anybody, big or small, any kind of dynamic. You know, I never wanted to like, oh, I only know how to do this, or I can only do this. You know, I want to be able to be versatile like a Swiss Army knife, and at any moment I can be an asset to any company. You know, is how I look at it. What can I bring to somebody's company? I know that I can do this, this, and this with this person, that person, and whoever else. And so thank you so much for the compliment, David.
I had to get my own promo in there at one point, you know, just...
So
Jay, where are we going, Jay? Drive the ship.
Are you kidding me? Two guys like you, and you expect me to drive the ship? Come on. We just talking, fellas. We ain't doing nothing.
Jay's just here for the technical difficulties right now.
We are just talking. No, you know, you mentioned where you started just a few minutes ago, but obviously, I mean, that was only part of your training. How did you get to where you're at now? I mean, obviously, you didn't just leave with what you learned where you started. You've been growing. Where do you continue to grow? How are you getting better each week we see you in the ring?
Man, you know, I said this before, you know, Mariachi Loco, Lil Cholo, two guys that I give a lot of credit to for what they did for me when I came back to wrestling. You know, just getting me in the ring, learning more about the Lucha Libre, being innovative. That's where I learned how to do my finisher move, was working with them, you know, like just certain things that they were teaching me, and the storytelling that they were trying to show me, and just I learned so much from them. And then, you know, lately I've been training a lot with John Morrison. I've been training with Jungle Boy. I've been training with Luchasaurus. You know, really working on some new things, strikes, combos, things like that. And those are all three guys who wrestle very dope, similar styles to me, and, you know, steel sharpens steel. So I can't go wrong working with those kind of guys. But then when you look at the matches that I've been having and the people that I've been wrestling, I learn the most when I'm in the middle of a match. I feel like I learn when I'm doing it. You know, I'm definitely a doer, not like I don't learn very well when I'm reading like a PowerPoint slide, things like that. I hate that shit. But if I'm doing it, that's how I learn. So when you're looking at matches, wrestling people like Rocky Romero, wrestling people like T.J. Perkins, wrestling people like the guys you see on AEW, like the guys you see on New Japan, those locker rooms are full of talent. And even Primetime Live, the United Wrestling Network, look at the guys that they've been bringing: Mike Bennett, Fred Rosser, Ray Rosas, Kevin Martinson, just so much people. They just got Leo Rush there this week. So much talent coming in and out of Marquez. I like to call him Marquez's projects. Like his projects, the things that he does, like the people that he has there. There's just so much talent. And when you're wrestling people that are talented and want to be great, it's gonna make you better. You're either gonna fold under pressure and drown, or you're gonna rise above that stuff.
So Dave Scooby says that you made Luchasaurus look good on AEW Dark.
Luchasaurus murdered me. He murdered me. That video has like almost 80,000 views on Twitter right now.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Did you see it, Kevin? The choke slam into the knee?
No, but I'll have to go watch. Now I'll be 80,001.
Yeah, earlier he tried to choke slam me in the match, and I countered with a backflip, tried to light him up a little bit. Went for my DDT, and he caught me for the choke slam. And when I tried to get out of him again with the backflip, he hit me with the knee, put me to sleep.
Oh, nice. That sounds brutal.
It's insane. Yeah, I'm doing this podcast right now from heaven. All right?
So I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. So you brought up Leo Rush.
Yes.
Okay. Now remember. Yes, I'm a retired professional wrestler. All right. So I've been in the locker room. I've been in the ring. I know what it's like to see things as a wrestler, but I'm retired now, man. I'm a fan.
Okay.
I've gone back to the time in my life. I've passed the bitter wrestler stage of hating what I didn't get to do or whatever of that.
Okay.
I'm a fan now. Leo Rush has shown his face in Primetime Live. In my opinion, as a fan, nobody will make a better opponent than Danny Limelight. That if we want to see it, everybody else wants to see it. And I'm taking my time just letting you bubble and boil on the inside right now, knowing you are ready to jump on this conversation, this subject, and I'm just getting the last bit of words in that I know I can get before I let you go on this, because I want to see it. J-Cal wants to see it. Now you tell me, how bad do you want that match, and how bad do you want? No one will stop. I want to see like a series. I don't want to see just one-off thing here. I want to see this thing escalate into some things that only an arena type match like Primetime Live can offer. Tell me, how bad do you want that? What are your thoughts on Leo Rush showing his face on your territory, Primetime Live?
Well, first all I want to say is this. Leo Rush is a superstar, right? He's somebody who's very talented. He knows how to talk. He moves in the ring very well. He comes to Primetime Live. He returns to SoCal, right? His big SoCal return on pay-per-view. And instead of getting in the ring with Danny Limelight, he wants to have a good first showing and look like the superstar that Leo Rush is in his own little head. Now, I respect that. I respect wanting to come in and make a name for yourself and show off and talk about you want the money, you want this, you're here for that. I get it. Fidel Bravo is an amazing talent. He went in there and he came up short. And I'm not trying to make fun of his height. But the fact of the matter is this. I am Danny Limelight. They might as well change the damn name of the show to Limelight Live. You know what I'm saying? Woo. Danny Limelight. Because I am there every week. I'm on United Wrestling Network for 5 years strong. I'm the face of the company. If you think of United Wrestling Network right now, you think of Danny Limelight, and I don't even have a championship with the company. I don't need it. If you want to do pay-per-view numbers, you book Danny Limelight and Leo Rush in the main event. Let's talk numbers. Numbers don't lie. Danny Limelight versus Leo Rush in the main event. You want to do a series? We could do a series, but I just want to get in the ring one time and slap the shit out of him for calling me a bitch on Twitter. Leo Rush is somebody who's used to talking and making people afraid of him by the way he bumps his guns. I'll walk in the ring and punch him in his fucking snot box. And then see, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Leo Rush, I'm not denying your talent. And everybody watching knows that Leo Rush is a phenomenal athlete. There's no doubt about it. But that's why they want Danny Limelight in the ring. They want somebody that's going to compete at that level. Yeah, he's been to WWE. I ain't been there yet. But I've been to a few places he hasn't been yet either. And what I will say is when this match happens, it has to happen on Primetime Live. It has to happen on pay-per-view. And everybody needs to tune in and buy because they will not the match itself is worth the 4-week bundle. You get the match one time for $21.99, it's worth the $21. Danny Limelight with Leo Rush is main event on any show right now. And it's gonna happen because Mr. Marquez is a very smart man and he knows what he's doing. So when it happens, Leo Rush, if you happen to listen to this, if you take time out of your big gold watch and your gold chains and you set all that stuff down, you get a moment, listen to this, I hope you're listening, Poppy. I'm not Fidel Bravo. I'm Danny Limelight, the face of Primetime Live. The face of the place you just walked into. And when I get in the ring with you, son, I'm putting you down. And that's on my mama, B.
Woo!
Wow.
We just gotta let that simmer. We gotta let that simmer. We've talked about this on the show, and again, I certainly don't. I'm not shy about talking about my wrestling career, but this show's not about my wrestling career. But I will say this: there was a point in time where I know the tone that you have in your voice, where I know what you're feeling. And I called a guy out who was a world champion for the National Wrestling Alliance. I was in my gym by myself. I was just mad because I knew I was better than everybody else in the world, and I didn't have the validation around my waist. For me at that moment, that's what it looked like. I had pinned Daniel Bryan 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring on pay-per-view, and yet here I am watching some dude that is half as good as me carry a belt around that I felt like I owned, that should have been mine. I called him out. I think I scared him to the point where he actually left the country and went to Japan. My advice, this is legit.
It's legit.
And he can't say he didn't to this day because he never came back. I told him that he did. He still never came back to fight me. And even today, retired, 30 pounds overweight, I'll still slap him in the face and take his lunch money. So I'm telling you that you might want to cool it a little bit because Leo Rush might hear these words, get a little scared, and tuck tail and run because I don't think Leo Rush can handle the fire you're trying to bring right now. The Leo Rush I saw this week is a complacent guy in the ring, out there coasting, and I feel like you're the Mike you're the Clubber Lang to his Rocky Balboa, Rocky 3.
I tell you what, man.
You're the Buster Douglas to his Mike Tyson.
I am on a mission right now. I'm laser focused. I'm fired up, and I have no intention of stopping. I don't care about the names. I don't care about where they've been. I respect everything that everybody's done in this business, whether they had one match or 1,000 matches. But I am not stopping until I'm where I want to be. And in order for me to get there, I need to beat the best of the best, and I need to prove to everybody watching that I deserve to be where I say I want to be. Because you're right, it's about the validation. I can be so good, and nobody would care if I'm not wearing a championship. I could be so good and nobody won't care if I'm not signed, if I don't have a hashtag Danny Limelight is All Elite next to my name, or the new prospect at WWE Performance Center is Danny Limelight. Nobody's going to care. Some people won't care if that's not by my name. That's why I am the way I am right now. That's why I'm hungry. That's why you turn your TV on, at some point during the week that plays wrestling, there's a 60% chance you're going to see my face. That's not a lie. That's facts. 4 or 5 times out of the week, I'm on TV with 4 different companies. I have so much fueled up right now, so many doubters, so many naysayers, people that don't want to see it happen. And to me, that shit makes me feel good. Because that tells me that I'm almost there. Like, I see the door, and I'm slowly getting there. And when I get there, I'm not going to knock. I'm going to kick that son bitch down. And Leo Rush just happens to be the first person on my list.
As far as I see it, I don't see anything personal from you towards Leo. I mean, maybe he said some things on Twitter. Athletes talk trash.
Yeah.
This to me doesn't seem like it's about Leo Rush. This seems like it's about Danny Limelight realizing, like, this is my time right now. And Leo Rush just happens to be the wrong guy, in the wrong place at the wrong time, wrestling the wrong guy. And again, this is something I really can't wait to see. I can't imagine knowing. Again, we talked off air. We both are big Dave Marquez fans. I can't imagine Dave Marquez doesn't have money in his eyes when he sees that opportunity, sees that match. And you know, you're a hometown guy. And you know, I think that when you're the hometown guy and you got a guy like Leo Rush coming in, you got some turf that you got to defend. And again, I just think you got a lot more skin on the line. I think you got a lot more desire at this stage of where you're at in your career. And so I'm really excited to see it. I like to see stuff that has a little more passion and heart to it, where it, you know, I know it means something. Because, you know, again, there's wrestling is what it is, but there's some, when it's real, you feel it. And there's a difference between, you know, brother, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kick your tonight, I'm going to tonight, you know. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between that and then when there's a conviction behind someone who is ready to break out. And so I think we could probably say this over and over and over again, but I want to actually move on and ask you a few questions that I had of myself to ask you, just to cool you off maybe a little bit or move you in a different direction, because I know you just ate. And I know you're probably already hungry again because you're so hungry.
Stop.
So my question would be, you know, off air I talked a little bit with you about, you know, one of my big inspirations to getting into wrestling was Rey Mysterio. You know, a guy that I watched and said, I can do this. You know, this shows me. I know I have the talent, but this shows me there's a possibility. Like in Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. So my question is, you know, let's talk a little bit about your inspiration. Like, what you know, I watch your matches. I could probably guess a ton of different things because I probably tell you watch a lot of wrestling. You're a student of the game. But who are your inspirations? Who put you where you are today that made you want to be where you're at, and why wrestling?
The Rock. Anytime somebody asked me, it was always Dwayne The Rock Johnson. The electricity, you know, the eyebrow, the way he talked. To me, what got me invested into wrestling was selling me into the building. Like getting me to want to see you watch the match. Getting me to want to watch the match. And whenever The Rock would talk his shit and have the cool catchphrases and all the punchlines, and that's what made me want to watch whoever he was wrestling. And then when I hear that, I'm like, oh shit, the goosebumps came. I'm like, let's go. You know, Rock, you know, The Rock's coming. So it was always The Rock. After he kind of transitioned out, I loved watching Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I loved watching Eddie Guerrero. I loved watching Latino Heat. He's somebody to this day that I turn on WWE Network and I go watch Eddie Guerrero matches from back in the day. It's just something about, he's another person who was good on the microphone. His energy, the way he connected with the fans, the way he was so good at being a bad guy, and he was so good at being a good guy, and just, you know, he was one of the first major Latinos to really do it. You know, in my opinion, he was one of the first Latinos that actually made people see Latins in wrestling as superstars. You know, and I just loved watching him. And then as I, you know, right before I kind of stopped watching wrestling because it wasn't cool anymore, I loved watching Randy Orton and John Morrison. I loved watching Johnny Nitro at the time because all the parkour shit he did, and that's pretty cool that now I get to work with him and train with him. And, you know, like the movie that I did with him and stuff like that, had that peer relationship with him. But he was somebody who I thought was innovative back then, you know, and just Randy Orton, the way he did the little things. That's what it was for me. When I started wrestling, I didn't know about the independence or all these other companies before then. So when I started wrestling, I started watching other stuff. You know, I liked watching Seth Rollins. I liked watching Adam Cole. I liked watching Johnny Gargano. So like there's 3 matches that I like to watch a lot, over and over and over. One of them is The Rock and Hogan from WrestleMania. Just the electricity and the story in that match itself. That's one. The other match I love to watch is Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano from TakeOver. Just that match to me was just insane. And then the one that I like to watch the most, my favorite match, is '97 Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio at Halloween Havoc.
Halloween Havoc.
Now those are my 3 favorite matches of ever. And so when I'm watching their stuff, I look at things that Ray used to do. I look at things that Eddie used to do. I look at things that other people do, and I think, how can I make it mine? How can I make it new or feel fresh? You know, even to this day, somebody that I talk to a lot and that I really reach out to and send things to get feedback from is Ray Phoenix. Because in my opinion, Phoenix is like one of the fucking best wrestlers in the world right now. Just the things that he does in the ring. And so he's somebody that I'll send a clip to, like, hey, what do you think of this? And he'll let me know, like, yeah or no. You know, he doesn't like it, or do this instead. And he's somebody I just bounce ideas off, because the way his mind works is so creative. I want my moves that I do in the ring to be stuff that nobody else can do, except like somebody like Ray Phoenix, who's just that athletic and that parkourish, you know. But when I do things, even a simple thing as a DDT, I try to make it, you know, so that nobody else can do it, so that when they see it, they think of me, you know. And that comes from studying old wrestling, studying new wrestling, watching everybody's stuff, and then staying true to who I am and what I would do, and just trying to stay innovative and make sure that when you see me wrestling, it's something fresh, and it's something that you're not going to get by watching the next guy. That's why I don't throw super kicks. You don't see me throwing a super kick no more. I'm not going to do a Canadian Destroyer. I'm not going to do the moves that everybody does, and I used to, because I used to think when I first started wrestling, like, oh, this is the moves that I got to do to get attention, you know? This is the moves I got to do to get over, you know, to like make people want to see me. I need to do a Canadian Destroyer, or I need to jump off a 20-foot ladder, you know, like that's what I used to think. Now I'm like, if I do this and just add a little bit of sazon on it, it'll be good. I'll be good. It'll be who I am. It'll be true to me, and somebody will want to see that. And I think that I've done a good job. I'm not trying to like hype myself up, but I think that lately when I watch my matches, I'm very happy with the kind of stuff that I'm doing in the ring.
Well, I think sorry, Jay, go ahead. You haven't spoke at all. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's interesting that we're talking about this time and place in the world of wrestling where a lot of us got back into it or got into it. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, Danny, and not that much older, but I'm a lot older than you. And I grew up, you know, with Hulkamania. I grew up with the Horsemen. I grew up with, you know, both the NWA and WWF. That's what I grew up with. And there was a point in time, like in the late 90s, like 96, 90, like 95, 96, I was just about done. And then I saw this guy show up on Nitro, Chris Jericho. And the guy just impressed me. And then I would see Chris Benoit, and then I would see Eddie Guerrero, and I would see Rey Mysterio, Malenko, and one guy that I really liked that nobody else really cared for, but Super Callow. I don't know, I just liked that guy a lot. And all this, like the lucha, but not just the lucha, the cruiserweight style of wrestling really brought me back to wrestling. I was just about done with it before the NWO, before, you know, DX and all that stuff, before the Attitude Era. I was done with wrestling. And then one night I just happened to be on TBS at 6:05, and I'm watching these cruiserweights. I'm like, wait a minute, this is good.
Yeah. What am I watching right now?
This is good. This is and it's funny that like that's what you grew up on. That's what kind of brought you to the table. I know Kev is a big fan of the junior heavyweight wrestling from that era and also in Japan. So it's pretty awesome to me that that's like something that the three of us have in common. We were all watching that same show at that time, and so I thought that was kind of a cool thing to point out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Danny. And it's interesting because, like Jay said, you know, I think for me, there becomes a transition phase where you stop watching wrestling because you love to watch it, and you start to transition to be saying, I want to do this. Like, I can do this. I'm gonna do this. For me, it had to be the 96 to 98 range, because not only was I getting especially later in the late 90s, because then the tape trading and all that started happening. I started getting access to, New Japan Super Junior tournaments, which is pretty much like probably what I watched for a full year straight was in New Japan Super Junior 94, J Crown, 95, 96, 97. Gosh, 97 was so good. And I just remember like that started to make me realize like, oh, I could do this even if I can't do it in America. I could do it here in Japan. But then you bring up the 97 Halloween Havoc, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero,
Such a good match.
which to me, what made those guys so successful in the American brands was that they took the moves and some of the story of Lucha Libre wrestling, but they put it in an American psychology in a television compatible fashion that maybe, like I said, I mean, I can watch AAA, I can watch CMLL, like I'm a wrestling guy, like I can watch paint dry as long as two guys are wearing tights, but and boots, okay, like y'all have to calm down, but no, but I could watch AAA, but most American fans are not gonna get into that.
Right.
But man, when you start adding those moves to the kind of the American psychology, adding some of the television qualities of kind of creating those big moments that you have to keep an audience in tune. Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio 97, I felt like it was almost like a culmination of those things. And one of the most amazing parts of that match is that Rey Mysterio is still alive after the powerbomb Eddie Guerrero gave him in that match. My God. I watch that to this day, like people, like I always show people that really, are kind of on the fence about wrestling, or like I show my wife that video. I was like, babe, watch this move right here. Oh God, I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah.
It's just awful. The backflip DDT. These are just things that had never been seen, really never happened on a stage like that before. And again, you had the perfect combination of, you had a great heel wrestler telling his story, you had Rey Mysterio telling his story, you had moves that really took the moves that had already taken it to the next level and took it to another level. There's just so much in that match to like. And kind of like Jay, that was probably the era that got me back into wrestling. But at the same time, I knew that was what I was going to end up doing.
Right.
With my life, at least for 15 some odd years. So, I think that's pretty cool. That's one of those things where I could probably nerd out over that match over and over again. Watch it
doesn't get old. Every time I watch it, there's something else I see that like stands out more to me than it did the first time. But I think that I looked at that made me think that I could do it. I wanted to do it when I was a kid because I saw The Rock doing it. I saw those DX. I was telling my teachers to suck it. I was a little shithead. But I just didn't know how. I didn't know about independent wrestling. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I looked at it. I'm like, well, I can't be in the WWF back then if I'm not 6 feet, 200 something pounds. In career day, when I'm telling my teachers at career day, I want to be a wrestler, they laugh and they think that what? It doesn't make sense. You're a Puerto Rican kid from New York, go play baseball. And that's what I did. I played baseball and I wanted to play for the Yankees. That didn't happen either. But
I love it.
I think I told the story before. A lot of people have heard it. Like, I stumbled on independent wrestling so accidentally. Like, my daughter knocked over some DVDs. It was one of them was The Rock's top 10 matches. I bought it. I put it on the TV. Me and my daughter are watching it. She's sitting in a little bopper. She was like fucking 4 months old, drinking a bottle. And her mom walks in and sees it, and she hadn't watched wrestling like that. So I look online to see when WWE was coming to town for like a date night. And they were coming the next week. So I go to the show with my daughter's mom, my ex-wife, and I run into Joe Gamble, who used to wrestle around this area, and he tells me that he's trained to be a wrestler. I laugh because I think it's funny. And I'm like, sure, yeah, that's what you're doing. It didn't make sense to me. And he introduced me to this wrestling school. And I walked into school, and I'm not going to say the name, but I seen the people that were training, and I looked at it, and I was like, they're doing this? Like, I can definitely do it. because I was in the Marine Corps. I was about to be a sergeant in the Marines at the time. I was super athletic, super in shape. Like, I felt like I had the physical endurance and all that stuff. I just needed to learn how to do it. And even when, you know, things didn't end well with that school and they were like telling me that I'm never going to wrestle again, you know, I looked and I said, there's no way. Like, there's no way you're going to tell me that I can't do this, because I can do it. And even though I look at my old matches sometimes and I'm like, man, like, I'm not as good as I thought I was, I still see potential in myself. Like, and it's probably the same thing that David Marquez saw when he called me and was like, I'm bringing you the championship from Holland. I wasn't as good as I thought I was, but I knew how to do enough, and I knew how to talk. I was always able to talk. And I was like, man, like, my gear was trash. You know, I was wrestling. And in my defense, I wasn't wrestling some of the best people in that company anyways. But I knew that I could do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believed in myself. And I'm sure that when Marquez saw that, he saw enough in me to want to bring me to his television program. You know what I'm saying? And now, seeing how far I've come, I felt like this was what I was always supposed to do. I have pictures of me as a kid wearing little championship belts and stuff like that. Like, I wanted to do it then. It didn't seem possible because I was a kid from New York and I was Puerto Rican and I was small as hell. And I didn't know about, you know, a lot of the cruiserweight stuff because all I knew was WWF, and I didn't really watch WCW like that until after. So whatever Mr. Marquez saw in me when he brought me to his company, I know he looks at me now and he's like, this is what I've always saw. You know, this is what I saw. And I talk to him very often. He's somebody I have a really good relationship with. And I called him the other day, and as soon as he answers, he says, when are you leaving? He thought I got signed, and I was calling to let him know that I was leaving. But that just shows me how much he believes in me. When I call him, the first thing he says is, when are you leaving? You know what I'm saying? And to me, that means a lot. And that's why every time I get on these podcasts with whoever, I always mention that man's name, because I thought I was good then. I thought I could do it, but he knew. Like, he knew that I was going to be somebody that can at least be an asset to his company. At the very least, he believed in me enough to put me on his TV program. And now that I'm doing all that I'm doing now, and I'm able to talk to all you awesome people that are giving me the time of the day to talk to, and I've had a relationship with Jay for a while, it feels good because I know that there are some people who saw that same kid at that promotion and was like, this kid's going to be good, or this kid's going to be able to do something, at least make some kind of wave on the independent scene at the very least, you know? And now they've seen me, you know, doing this. It's dope. And I've been doing Instagram lives for the last 2 days, and I've been having all these kids and people who watched me years ago in San Diego, and like with my old t-shirts. Like, I bring them on the chat, and they have my old first, you know, get your camera ready t-shirt from when I first started. Like,
yeah,
I had this. And it makes me feel good because I never forget where I came from. I'm authentic. I'm real as it comes. I never forget what it felt like when I was in Brooklyn. I never forget what it felt like when I first started wrestling. I never forget the first t-shirt I sold was to Dan Ripley and Mona Ripley at SoCal Pro. I'm going to say the name there because I want to give that couple of shout-outs. They bought my first shirt ever. I never forget that stuff. I never forget the kids that wanted autographs, or the 3 kids that used to come with the signs for me. I don't forget that shit because without them, I wouldn't be here now. And even if and when I sign with a major company, I'm going to still have time for the people that was there for me from the beginning. I'm going to still have time to do, you know, these kind of things because I like to show love. I grew up when people say, you know, you spread love. That's the Brooklyn way. You spread love. And I'm a positive person. I believe in good energy. And there's no way I'm going to be too cool for this or too cool for that. And it just feels good that now I'm where I knew I would be. And I still have more work to do, you know, and I'm really enjoying this moment. And more importantly, you know, like having a daughter who she loves wrestling, you know, and she loves the acting and the stunt stuff that I do, and she loves doing it herself, the acting and stuff. And I know she's watching. And I'm just trying to set that example for her because it doesn't matter if my daughter wants to be the first female president, if she wants to be a veterinarian, she wants to go to the moon or build a fucking tent on Jupiter. If she wants to do it, nobody's gonna be able to tell her no because her dad did whatever he wanted. Any job, anything I wanted to do in life, I've done it, regardless of what people said. And that's the example I want to set for my daughter. That's the example I want to set for mi gente, you know, and for all the other little kids and family people. And maybe there's somebody watching this podcast right now that's like, damn, I always think I could be a professional wrestler. They're gonna be like, you know what, I can because he did it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what I want to do, man. I want to be that role model, that inspiration for everybody that got hated, everybody that got out in them, everybody that's got somebody telling them you can't do it. Nah, you can do anything you want as long as you put your heart and passion into it and you don't stop.
I'm getting goosebumps because, the mantra around here is get positive, stay positive. And I mean, you're living it, you're breathing it, you're speaking it into the universe. I love it, man. That GPSP, I love it, bro. That's so awesome. I want to take the conversation a little bit different direction because I know, look, man, first of all, thank you for spending your time with us today. Thank you for being here with us today. But I did want to ask you something because it's something that I've seen happen over the last few years. A lot of talent has kind of put out like a wish list, like, hey, this is who I want to face. This is who I want to wrestle. I mean, we saw Cody do that famously when he left the WWE. And, I mean, circled on there was Battle of Los Angeles, but he also had all these other people he wanted to face, the Young Bucks. And, even the FTR, they wanted to go fight the Young Bucks when they got out of contract. And, even Leo had a list, and I think your name was on that list.
I was on that list.
Do you have a list? And who, I mean, outside of Leo Rush, because we already touched on that, who would you like to step in the ring with that you haven't yet?
Right now I got 5 names on my list. Leo is one of them. Jay White, Switchblade himself. JT Dunn out of the East Coast. Alex Zane, and Ray Phoenix. Those are the 5 guys that I got on my list right now that I want to wrestle. But I do want to have a singles match with Jungle Boy. I've never wrestled him in a singles match. And I want to have a 3rd match with TJ Perkins. I think that would be good. We're 1-1 right now. It'd be cool to have a little rubber match. Those first 5 people I named are the current people that are on my list that I've never had a singles match with that I want to have a singles match with. I don't care where it's at. It's Primetime Live, New Japan Strong, or AEW. Like, I just want to do it. So that's my list. If PWG ever comes back, obviously I'd want to be in Bola. I would like to compete with PWG. I think that would be tight. And the only other companies I haven't wrestled for are Ring of Honor and WWE. And, if I get the call, I would love to wrestle there as well. I don't close any doors or anything like that, but I really I'm just grinding and waiting for it to come, So when you think of my matches, those are the 5 guys and the companies. Those are the companies I want to wrestle for, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Hey, Danny, in the chat room, Wrestling with MMA just said, Jay White, take all my money. So that's a match that I think a lot of us would be interested in seeing. And,
absolutely,
again, to kind of transition to back to what we were talking to, I mean, New Japan Strong, Primetime Live, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and AEW. I mean, again, you're everywhere. And the fact that, first of all, you're giving schlubs like me, well, Kev's not a schlub, but you're giving a schlub like me an opportunity to speak with you. We really appreciate that. And again, thank you for your time. But I mean, what is like? Your phone must be ringing off the hook with opportunities. I mean, I know that you recently tweeted out. I believe it's Hurricane Pro Wrestling out in Texas. I know that's on your map. I mean, you just did Game Changer Wrestling out here in SoCal a few weeks ago. I mean, what's on the horizon for Danny Limelight?
Tomorrow, New Japan Strong, Danny Limelight versus Chase Owens. Ooh. It's my first time going 1-on-1 with Chase Owens. It's my first time wrestling somebody from Bullet Club. I'm super excited for that match. United Wrestling Network Tag Team Championships, that's on my menu. That's what I want. Me and Papa, we want to take those. And honestly, man, like, I'm not really accepting any independent bookings in SoCal anymore. I took GCW because it's GCW. If I'm going to wrestle in SoCal for an independent company, I have to really want the match. And where I find myself at right now, in my point in my career, I know what I want. It's not disrespecting to any company or anything like that. I just want to make myself more valuable. I want to make sure that I'm holding myself to a certain standard. So I'm accepting certain bookings, mostly out of state, because I'm trying to go out and wrestle in new places and meet new people and things like that. That's why I took Hurricane Pro. And I'm hoping to go to Hurricane Pro and get a shot at the Cruiserweight Championship. So I think that would be tight. And just really right now, I got one thing on my mind, and that's, finishing off my 2020 year, my 2020 vision, strong and pushing towards hopefully being signed to a major company by the end of the year or beginning of next year. That's my goal right now. I know that what I got to do is continue to work at the level that I'm performing at. I don't get tired. I'm radioactive. I'm not stopping. So I got a lot of New Japan shows coming up. I got Championship Wrestling from Hollywood coming up. Primetime Live coming up. I will be coming back to Jacksonville, Florida this month. Can't say for what, but I will be there this month. And I'm just excited to see where that takes me, where everything takes me. It's been a roller coaster of a career so far, and just getting started. I feel like I'm just not getting into my groove, like coming into who I am and who I want to be in this business. And I'm ready to see what comes in the future, and I'm ready to take on any and all in the process to show that I deserve to be here and I belong.
Nice. I mean, and that's. I didn't know you weren't.
I'm tired, man. I'm like, Danny, you wore me out, bro. It's like we had a match. Man.
And I wasn't, and I didn't know you weren't taking bookings out here. I think that's a shrewd move, and that's a bold move because, I know that there isn't a lot of live pro wrestling out in SoCal right now, but that's one of my biggest problems is that in this market in Southern California, and I'm sure this is true of most indie places, there's too much market saturation, and there's so many of the same wrestling promotions doing the same matches week in and week out, and it really dilutes the talent. It dilutes the product. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla doesn't book local guys because you could see those guys everywhere, and I think that's a pretty bold move. I think that's a smart move that I think will pay off down the road for you.
I just want to make myself exclusive, in a good way. I'm not trying to take away from the fans. I'm not trying to say that I'm better than any company. I just want to make sure if I'm doing something, it's to better the scene. It's to make people want to come see that show. They want to come see Danny Limelight because they can only see him on TV. And I just want to make sure that if I'm showing up somewhere, it's to the benefit of the company, to the benefit of the person I'm wrestling, to the benefit for the fans, and then benefits myself again. And I think it is a bold move, but right now it's the decision I got. And I'm sure there'll be some companies that may hit me up, and I may take it. It just depends on what it is that we're going to be doing. But I said I have a 2020 vision. I know what I want, and I'm not stopping, and I'm not going to quit until I get there, man.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I know you got to get going, and I know that we again, we're very grateful that you took your time to spend with us this evening. And real quick, of course, we want to plug the merch. We want to plug the social medias. I know you have Pro Wrestling Tees at Danny Limelight. But where can folks follow you on social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff?
Mi gente, first off, I just want to thank you guys, J. Cal, Kev. Thank you so much for bringing me to the Alliance Guy podcast. Everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. I'm not hard to find. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, every social media platform at Danny Limelight. And my Pro Wrestling Tees store is prowrestlingtees.com/Danny Limelight. Show love, hit me up. If you got a podcast you want to do, let's do it. If you just want to shoot the shit, talk wrestling, talk movies, talk comics, whatever, just hit me up. I'm very, very, very down to earth. I'll talk to anybody, man. And thank Jay. We said it 3 months ago. Let's do it again. I'm saying it again. Anytime you guys want me on here, hit me up. Let's make it happen. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, man. You fired me up. I'm sure you fired Kev up. This was a great conversation, man. Of course, we just want to see the the good things happen for you, sir. You put in the work for sure. It's been fun for me because I got to watch the Year of the Spider evolve. You know what I mean? Like I saw Get Your Cameras Ready, and I saw that evolve. I was there in San Marcos, and I'm not gonna say for which promotion, but I was there, man, and I saw you wrestling those preliminary matches and thinking, this guy, man, they keep talking about this guy, and it was legit, and it's still legit, and every time I see you out there, man, you impress the hell out of me. So thanks again for coming on, man, and we're going to let you go, Danny. So you have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you guys so much, man. It's been a pleasure. See you soon.
Appreciate you, man.
Okay.
You will. All right, so let's see how this works. I'm going to just go to me for a minute here while we try to fix the camera for you. So just a little bit behind the scene, guys. We try to make this show work, and while doing that, it's only set up to do so much. So, Kev, I don't want to spend too much time because I know it's late where you're at, but can we just touch a little bit on the Primetime Live? Because, again, I know that we got this title tournament going, and I just don't want to ignore it because I think ultimately that title tournament deserves a little bit of attention. Plus, I mean, we saw we saw some pretty good wrestling, and I just feel like we should really quickly comment on some of it. Of course, there was a huge mix-up in the tournament. Mix-up, maybe shake-up is a better word. Initially we were expecting Davey Boy Smith Jr., we were expecting Watts, we were expecting Carl Fredericks, and a lot of that just got tossed right out the window. Those three superstars are no longer a part of the tournament. Eric Redbeard was now taking on Fred Rosser. And then the other change in the lineup was we were getting I have this stuff written down. Why am I trying to go from the top of my head? We also have Sean Davari make his debut Primetime Live, taking on Rocky Romero, who's a longtime fixture of the United Wrestling Network. And then, of course, we had Kevin Martinson get in that fill-in spot for Davey Boy Smith Jr. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that this is great. I was so excited to hear it because as much as I love Kevin Martinson, I really felt that Davey Boy Smith Jr. brought a lot of star power to the tournament, and it did take a little bit of the wind out of the sails for me. But ultimately, I mean, we got a hell of a match out of Mike Bennett and Kevin Martinson.
Right.
I know that the show started off with that big announcement, but then we got Leo Rush versus Fidel Bravo. Kev, I know that you saw some of the match. What you were hitting on with Leo Rush earlier, I really wanted to point out, but I didn't want to get our guests too fired up. He seemed very petulant, like a child, giggling as he's getting ready to hit his finisher on Fidel Bravo. And again, I don't want to take anything away from Fidel. I've seen him have some great matches over the years. In fact, this was a bit of a rematch from a 205 Live when out here in Ontario, California, of all places. These two had met before. But it just felt like I don't think Leo Rush would have done the same thing to Danny Limelight in that match. I mean, what were your thoughts?
I don't even have to mince my words, but I'm still trying to find the words to express how disappointed I was with Leo Rush, because I've watched a lot of what he's done. And, not just his attitude in terms of maybe the character aspect of the match. I understand the cocky character, I'm so great. This is a pushover match. But one of the points of enhancement talent, I guess you would say,
yeah,
is to enhance the person they're enhancing, for the wrestler to show what they're good at, show some of why they're so great. And when I'm seeing lazy shoulder tackles, going through the motions, Leo, if they're paying you full price to be on this show, and even if they're not, you owe it to the fans to give it everything you got out there. And so, even if this was just a tune-up match, I always tell people that you don't wait till you get to the pros to start playing like a pro. You don't say, "Oh, well, I'm in high school now. I want to play pro football. When I get to pros, I'll play like a pro. I'll play hard then." I just think the seeds that Leo Rush is sowing is opening the door for somebody like Danny Limelight to literally kick the door down. Just wasn't impressed, and I guess had I never seen Leo Rush before, I wouldn't have something to compare it to. But I felt like Leo Rush owed the fans a little bit more than he gave in this match, and that's not a knock to his opponent, because again, my expectations were on Rush, not on his opponent.
Right, and there's only so much you could do as the opponent. Again, he was there to showcase Leo, and and it's funny because prior to this show, they announced New Japan Pro Wrestling with a litany of wrestlers who most deservedly should belong in the New Japan Cup. His name was on that list with guys like T.J. Perkins. His name was on there with guys like I have it right here. I lost it. TJ Perkins, Chris Bay, who's had a wonderful run out here in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood before he signed with Impact Wrestling, and it just I was disappointed. I was definitely disappointed. And you can see some of the comments here. Haven't seen much of Fidel, but if Rush is talking smack and is the man of the hour, then he should have maybe had a 5-minute his 5-minute match should have dominated. And then Leo is a great talent, but he's no match for Danny. I mean, I think I asked Dave Marquez when they announced Leo Rush, I'm like, are we going to get Danny versus Leo? He said, no, not yet. So what do you mean? He's like, not yet. So hopefully that match does happen. He didn't say it will never happen, but hopefully that match does happen at some point down the road. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, guys, because again, we are running late. It is, we're an hour in. We like to keep this right about 45 minutes to an hour. We do want to point out Miranda Elise and Heather Monroe. I think we saw a much better version of Miranda Elise in this matchup. I think she really she looked a lot more crisp in this match, and I don't know if that's a byproduct of Heather Monroe or if her nerves were a little bit more calm being in this environment the second time around. Kevin, did you have any thoughts on this match? I mean, did you think it was a better outing for Miranda?
I thought it was a better outing for both because I wasn't that impressed with Heather Monroe the first time either. And so, yeah, I felt like the match was definitely a lot more satisfying. I like a little bit more subtlety in my heels, if you know what I'm saying. I feel like sometimes Heather Monroe's character's a little over the top, and yes, it's wrestling, and it is over the top. But again, there's an art there's a subtle art. One of my least favorite stories in any form of entertainment, but in wrestling, is the bad guy that knows they're a bad guy. I like my bad guys to actually think they're the good guy.
Yes.
I like them to have a certain conviction about them that, when I think of a great bad guy, I think of like Magneto. Somebody whose convictions, may not align with yours, and in turn, he feels like his methods may be justified given that what he's trying to do. But he believes that he's doing the right thing. And I feel like sometimes, like I said, this isn't a knock necessarily against Heather Monroe's wrestling ability. I'm not calling her a bad person. I just feel like it's a little bit too tuned up, that if she could just tone down the heelishness a little bit, she'd be a better heel, is the best way I could put it. Almost the kind of, where the baby face could not quite be so much of a baby face too. That's personal preference. But again, I thought it was a better version of both of them than we saw the last time I got to watch both of them. Some good ring presence, some good camera work by both of them. So it was a good match.
What I really liked about the match too is the selling, right? Because in Heather Monroe's first match, she was up against Camille. So she was more, kind of like that scared heel trying to hide from the big bruiser, right? So she was playing the role and having her manager get involved and had to cheat to get that advantage. And then her last match, again, she wasn't really put in this kind of a position. In this match, she was in peril, and Miranda Elise was working that arm quite a bit during the match, and that carried over. And so many times I hate to see it in wrestling, Kev, I think you've said it before too, is someone will get injured, and then all of a sudden when they get that heat, the injury goes away and they're fresh, and that that arm that's been worked the entire match is now just good to go. And I hate that. And then in this match, I really saw Heather Monroe, like everything she was doing, like that arm was dead. She was rubbing it in the shoulder. If she got a break, if she was able to outsmart Miranda there for a minute, she's sitting there rubbing her shoulder. She's working that arm. She's working out the kinks. I thought that was really cool. I thought that added to the story and made it more believable, and I always appreciate that. Again, we'll just basically touch on Sean Davari, great wrestler, history with WWE, Impact, Ring Ka King, has been all over the world, Ring of Honor, Rocky Romero. There's I mean, there's very few accolades Rocky Romero hasn't held. CMLL Super Ligero champion, former NWA World Junior Heavyweight champion, former IWGP Junior Heavyweight champion, multi-time IWGP Junior Tag Team champion, United Wrestling Network TV champion multiple times. He was a guy that I really thought would have been in this tournament even before the changes, so I was kind of surprised he wasn't on the initial list of the tournament. I was happy to see him in there. It's kind of disappointing to see the result. I was hoping to see another resurgence of Rocky Romero, to see him kind of take it up to the next level. This match, but didn't really do a whole lot for me. I thought Daivari was fine. I thought Romero was fine, but I know both of these are capable of a much better match. Kev, did you have any 2 cents you'd like to add on this one?
I really like Rocky Romero. There's just something to be said about a wrestler that has poise. And I just feel like he almost embodies that. I love his pacing. I love I love his entrance. I like the aspect of his presence out there. So he is one of those guys that you see him as a company guy, like somebody that, if you have the opportunity to run with him in any position of, where you can do something with him, I really feel like you should do that. And again, like I kind of alluded to this when we started talking about the tournament, that typically in these things you bring in guys for outsiders for the one-off kind of thing to gain some credibility for the event, for the eventual champion, or even for the semifinal of the tight stuff. I just would have liked to see Rocky Romero go another round just so I could watch him wrestle again. Daivari, he's been in the business for a little while, and at this stage, I'd just like to see him be able to tell a better story than what he did in this match, especially on TV, having TV experience. But on the major positive note, both these guys look like $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Daivari maybe a little bit over the top, but both these guys had great gear, great entrance, great intros. I mean, these look like wrestlers to me.
Yeah.
And so again, I got to give that credit where credit's due. So again, to me it felt like a championship tournament match. Just not with the outcome I had hoped, but gosh, once we cover the final match, we're gonna have some really good matchups in the next round of this tournament.
I didn't mean to leave it out, but of course Fred Rosser took on Eric Redbeard in a matchup that pitted 2 former WWE Tag Team Champions against each other. And this was, I guess, the highest caliber match in terms of stardom, in terms of well-known names, because again, Rosser spent so much time with the WWE, and and of course Redbeard had just come off programming just in the last few months. So again, I thought we were going to get a different kind of match. I know why they went the direction they went, because it's always good to have some adversity in a tournament. If Fred Rosser goes to the finals, he's got this angle where he was injured and he was able to play through it, or if he loses to Dickinson, he lost because he was hurt. So they gave him an out either way. I like Redbeard. He's a good wrestler. He's certainly's got that heel shtick down, the bruiser, the Brody, like the bad dude you don't want to step in the ring with. I would have liked to see more out of this match. I didn't like the DQ ending. I didn't like the whole shoving the referee down. I just felt like in a tournament of that caliber, you have an opportunity to become a world champion, and Redbeard is a guy who desperately could use that spotlight of having that notoriety of being the first United Wrestling Network World Champion. I just felt like that didn't make a lot of sense to me storyline-wise, but it gave him an out, and it of course helps put Rosser in a position where he's either going to get a lot of heat for being a babyface, or they gave him an out if he goes down to Dickinson. Kev, your thoughts on that match?
I felt like this should have been the main event. even with the finish. It just had a big match feel to it for me. That's the. And again, this is not just. Again, remember, like, I'm not always just thinking about who has the best headlocks and who has the best wrestling moves and who has the best series of moves or the best work rate. But perception is a huge part of wrestling. In fact, it's way bigger sometimes than we give it credit for. And just this match had the perception of a main event. And so when we got to the main event, and after I watched the main event, which is a good match, I just felt like, again, sometimes the way they book these, they surprise me in a pleasant surprise way because I feel like they're trying to be creative, trying to kind of set their own, set their own kind of way of doing things.
Yeah.
But I felt like this was one of those matches. I felt like this should have been the main. And even with the finish that I didn't agree with, and I think we both can agree that the finish was, if that's going to be the finish, like, there's so many better ways to come about that with a little more creativity. But whatever. That was the finish. But I felt like this should have been the main. I felt like both guys worked really hard. I like having big, giant, hairy dudes in the matches,
Yeah.
So I'd have liked to seen. But again, I have my pick. Rosser's the guy I feel like is going to end up winning this tournament. And so, again, he goes on. It's what we had expected in this side of the bracket with Dickinson versus Rosser. So, again, I'm kind of surprised they're not seeing Rick Dickinson and Rosser in the finals. And I guess maybe I didn't read my bracket very well. Because, I mean, again, they may have changed it for all I know.
Yeah, they changed the bracket because, again, we had Watts and Redbeard that were supposed to be in that bracket that would face Dickinson would face the winner of Watts versus Redbeard, but because of all the shifts and stuff, they moved Rosser onto the other side. And I'm with you on this one. Rosser is definitely could be the guy. But I think the man that won the main event is going to be the man that holds the title. Now, I flip-flop on my bracketology as well, too, because I thought it was going to come down to Dickinson and Davey Boy Smith Jr. And now that I know that it's Mike Bennett, well, that's my opinion that it's Mike Bennett because obviously he beat Kevin Martinson, had a hell of a match, beat J.R. Kratos the week before, and looked really, really solid against Nick Aldis. I mean, when you talk about a redemption story, there's nobody better to live this moment than Mike Bennett. And I think Mike Bennett versus Fred Rosser is a great story. I think Mike Bennett versus Chris Dickinson is a great story. This matchup between Kevin Martinson and Mike Bennett, week in, week out, we keep talking about how even in defeat, the losers look good. Kevin Martinson is a wrestler's wrestler. Kevin, you can back me up on this one, I think. He's been wrestling for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood for 14 years, basically day one type guy. I mean, he was even there on the old NWA Showcase shows, Rocket Randy. So he's been around for a long time. He got his opportunity last week to potentially win the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Heritage Championship, a title I thought he was going to win. I really did. And again, the storytelling from the weeks prior, Mike Bennett had bad knees in his match against J.R. Kratos. He threw him into the ring steps, and he was selling those injured knees the entire time. Kevin Martinson last week took a swan dive onto the stage. Like a swan
Every week he does something crazy like that.
Absolutely. I mean, he's given his whole body and soul to the United Wrestling Network. So it was what I loved about this match is that those storylines, those injuries, those nagging injuries that everyone gets when they're competing in athletics and competing in sports, they didn't forget about them. They weren't fresh. They had these injuries when they came into the match, and they became an issue during the match. One specific thing that sticks out to me is right early on when Martinson did that dive to kind of do the sunset flip and it turned into the sharpshooter, the Scorpion Deathlock, I was popping for that because I'd never seen that kind of a transition before. Plus, it was like, okay, he's working over those knees, he's working over the lower back. He's got a game plan against Mike Bennett, which is great because, again, Mike Bennett wasn't prepared for Kevin Martinson, but Kevin Martinson knew right away who he was facing. So it was kind of cool to have that strategy going into it. And of course, with BHK's bad back, he was in trouble, and a lot of the times during the match, you could see Mike Bennett take advantage of that injured back and those missed opportunities because of the back. Kevin, do you have anything else you'd like to add onto this match?
Oh yeah, I'd like to add a little armchair booking. So if the matches, because okay, we're gonna see Daivari and Bennett already now, right? I would have liked to seen Daivari versus Bennett this round, so we get that match.
Yeah.
We're both guessing that we're gonna see Bennett move on. But what I would have liked to seen was Kevin Martinson and Rocky Romero.
Ooh.
I really, really hope, because I don't know how long they have Romero for. I know he's an extremely hot commodity. But I would love to see Kevin Martinson and Rocky Romero, two guys I just think. And again, for Martinson, I think that's the kind of matches he needs.
Yeah.
As a singles wrestler, to have some matches against some of these guys, and you're really starting to see some development in him, some confidence building, because I still could have had this match right here, but I would have rather seen it in the next round, just because again I'm armchair booking here. Kevin Martinson is one of your guys. He's one of the guys you're trying to develop. A win against Rocky Romero does worlds for him. And then again, he can come in here, have this match against Bennett, do the job. And he's got more credibility than he would have otherwise. I think a guy like Daivari already has his credibility in terms of his build. He's already built. So again, he's there to polish the guys that are the United Wrestling Network homers. Just like I said, so again, I that's my armchair quarterbacking. I would have liked to have seen this match in the next round, and I would have loved to seen Martinson and Romero, and have Martinson get that big singles win. It kind of puts him into that upper echelon. Doesn't make him necessarily. He doesn't have to challenge for the title. But again, when he wrestles guys that have a little more clout within the United Wrestling Network, he's got some doubt in your mind as to if he's going to win this match. Which brings to me the next big question is, when do we see Kevin Martinson's big breakthrough singles match, and against who? Because it's bound to happen eventually. I would have just liked to have seen it in this tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about Kevin Martinson, I mean, I would have said 2 weeks ago it was the victory over Danny Limelight. And then he has this great match with Ray Rosas, but comes up just a little bit short. And then he has this really great match with Mike Bennett, but again, takes the L. And I really do believe that at some point, at some time, he's going to have to, he is going to have to get that breakout moment. So that's that does it for the pay-per-view, of course. Next week, we know that we're going to have the other two semifinal matches, in that we're going to see Chris Dickinson return to Primetime Live to take on Fred Rosser. And then on the other side of the card, we're going to see Mike Bennett taking on Daivari, which, I mean, I think we already know that these are going to be good matches, but the conclusion, at least in my eyes, is going to be Fred Rosser taking on Mike Bennett. But then also other matches on the card, we're going to see 4 Minutes of Heat make their return to take on the Real Money Brothers. Now, the Real Money Brothers, just want to point out, those guys have been on the show now 4 times. They're the most active tag team to be on Primetime Live, and I think that says something. Then we're going to get your girl, Lacey Ryan, making her return to a Primetime Live. She'll be taking on Vipress, and that match looks like it's going to be pretty good. And then, of course, the main event, the NWA Tag Team titles return to existence, to Primetime Live. I don't know how you want to say it, but Eli Drake and James Storm reunite to take on Aaron Stevens and the Question Mark for the NWA Tag Team titles. That'll be finally every title in the National Wrestling Alliance has now appeared on Primetime Live. Kev, are you excited about these matches?
I like Aaron Stevens. He had a little segment on the show. And again, yet again, I don't know if anybody navigates weird and awkward as well as Aaron Stevens does. But again, you're a wrestling fan when, you wrestled your whole career mostly as a technical wrestler, and then you like a guy named Aaron, like a guy like Aaron Stevens. But he just because he's so unconventional is what I'm getting at. But I do like that. I do like how he tries to navigate waters that no one else will go into. And what I want to see is like how they're going to have this match.
Yeah.
Because James Storm and Eli Drake, number one, like these are credible guys. And you and I both smell a title change. I don't know if you smell it, but I smell it.
I smell the Rock's cooking.
Yeah, and hey, we're not booking the show. We don't know the bookers. We can make predictions all day long. It just, people do it in every sport, so I'm going to do it here. And I just smell a title change coming up. And I just don't know how the heck they're going to pull this off and not make the NWA tag titles look worse than they did when they put them on the Rock and Roll Express. I found my chance. I took it.
Hey.
I played nice with the Chase Owens stuff tonight.
You did, and I was very proud of you.
But be honest, like all in all, I got no beef with Chase Owens.
I know
and I got no beef with Ricky, and I got no beef with Ricky Morton. No more than I have no beef with a wrestler that I say I don't think they're very good.
Sure.
Or that I don't think the decision that a company made was bad. I don't agree with everything Dave Marquez does, but I think Dave Marquez is awesome. So, again, if we're all grown-ups here, we should be able to have these conversations. I got no beef with Chase. I think he's a great wrestler. But all in all, I just I don't know, and I got no beef with the Rock and Roll Express. I just think it's been 20 years too long.
Agreed.
I just don't know how I don't know how we're going to see a title change, which I think is going to happen, in the NWA World Tag Titles gain anything for this.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, it's no secret James Storm has been without a contract since February. His contract lapsed. I think initially the plan was that in some capacity, some way, those tag titles were going to change hands at Crockett Cup 2020. Of course, the whole world, paused for the pandemic, and all these plans were laid to waste because of the pandemic. And even though Power doesn't appear to be anywhere near starting, what we do know is that they're going to have a different roster when it comes back. They've already set up some championships, new champions, so that it'll have a fresh look and feel to it. Of course, you've got the women's champion now in AEW, and Allison Kay, who just announced her departure from the NWA, is now challenging Serena Deep, who's an AEW contracted wrestler, for the NWA title on an AEW buy-in. So this whole thing is kind of murky, but I will give credit where credit is due. NWA Power was able to grab over 200,000 people week in and week out to watch those first 8 episodes of NWA Power. I don't believe they're going to have a problem doing this again. I went on my rant earlier in the week what is NWA Power going to be and why is it taking so long to pivot? But at the end of the day, where this comes into play is you're going to have 2 tag team wrestlers who are going to be working for the NWA going forward, regardless of who wins this match. But I think we all know what's going to happen. It's kind of hard to make this a surprise or a secret if anyone's been following. But it is a match that I am looking forward to, just so we have some closure, and then it allows the NWA to move forward with whichever direction they want to go with the tag teams. But that's going to do it, guys. We went a lot longer than we wanted to. Kevin, I really appreciate you, man. I know it's really late out where you're at. I know you had a long day. So, again, I want to say thank you for sticking around. If folks want to follow you, how can they get a hold of you on social media? The elections are over, so now I'm going to come back to Facebook.
Well, the elections are not completely over. I feel like, I don't know if Vince McMahon is booking this thing or what, but They're dragging it out, brother. So give me another couple weeks. I may venture back onto Twitter for something besides Hammerstone. But other than that, you can find me on Instagram. I'll be back eventually, but you can find me on Instagram, Kevin Lee Frazier. I respond, I interact. YouTube, you can definitely find my old wrestling matches, Kevin Douglas 247. My personal page would be Kevin Frazier. Just Kevin 247, and you can find me on Facebook at Kevin Frazier, Kevin L Frazier. Not too hard to find on all those, and again, I'm very interactive with people most of the time. So, and I should be getting a little more active here as the year rolls around. Just because I feel like it.
Well, yeah, we're coming towards the end of the year, so. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know it's getting late, so we'll call it a night. Again, thank you guys for tuning in every week. We really appreciate it. Special thanks to Danny Limelight for joining us. I know he was waiting on a Heine to show up, so I'm sure he's in a good place right now. But that's going to do it for us. If you guys are on Instagram, make sure you check out This is the NWA podcast, where Mr. Will, hey, it's Will Daly, and I will do our hot tag on Fridays. We hope you guys will join us, and that's at 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. And of course, we'll do this all over again on Tuesday for the pre-party. You guys can join us there. That's 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. And again, I appreciate you guys. Hopefully DK will be feeling better. He'll be back with us next week. Until next time, we will see you guys at the matches. Have a good night. Get positive, stay positive.